The world's longest undefended border, once a symbol of enduring peace and cooperation between two nations, now stands at the heart of a growing political and economic conflict, its tranquility disrupted by forces beyond the control of ordinary citizens. Recent U.S. policy shifts, most notably, the Trump administration's punitive tariffs on steel and aluminum, have shaken the very foundation of a relationship built over generations, sending shockwaves through both economies. This is more than a simple trade dispute. It's a test of a historic alliance with real and immediate consequences for millions whose daily lives, jobs, and families are tied to this border. For decades, the US and Canada thrived on mutual trust and deep economic integration, making the border a seamless conduit for commerce, culture, and personal connections that span generations. Now, tariffs and heated rhetoric threaten to turn cooperation into rivalry, impacting everything from global supply chains and cross-border businesses to the daily routines of families in border towns. This analysis will examine the economic drivers of the conflict, exploring how trade imbalances, shifting policies, and global market pressures have contributed to rising tensions. We'll look at the diplomatic and popular responses, from high-level negotiations to grassroots protests and public outcry on both sides of the border. And we'll reveal the direct impact on border communities, where small businesses struggle, families face uncertainty, and once bustling streets grow quiet. We'll also explore the political rhetoric fueling the standoff, the industries most at risk of collapse, and the broader implications for North American manufacturing and trade. Most importantly, we'll highlight the human cost of this standoff, stories of families separated, workers losing jobs, and communities grappling with an uncertain future. As the situation continues to evolve, understanding these complexities is more critical than ever for both nations, as the choices made now will shape the future of the US-Canada relationship for years to come. The current tensions between the United States and Canada began with the imposition of US tariffs on key Canadian imports, steel, aluminum, and energy products. These measures were introduced with the intention of protecting American industries from foreign competition, but they have had far-reaching consequences beyond their original scope. While the goal was to strengthen domestic manufacturing, the tariffs have disrupted the deeply integrated North American market, where supply chains and businesses on both sides of the border are closely linked and interdependent. For border communities, this disruption translates into higher prices for everyday goods, increased costs for small businesses, and a growing sense of uncertainty for those who depend on cross-border trade for their livelihoods. The economic fallout threatens jobs not only in manufacturing, but also in agriculture and tourism, sectors that have long thrived thanks to open borders and the free movement of people and products. Families and friends who live on opposite sides of the border now face rising costs, longer wait times, and strained relationships as the ease of visiting and doing business is replaced by new barriers and frustrations. The US and Canada share over $2 billion in daily trade, supporting millions of jobs and countless businesses. This economic partnership has been a cornerstone of prosperity for both nations. Even limited tariffs can send shockwaves through this vast network, causing delays, disrupting supply chains, and impacting local economies in ways that are felt by workers and consumers alike. Financial analysts are closely monitoring trade volumes, employment rates, and business closures in border states and provinces to gauge the full impact of these policies as uncertainty continues to grow. For many ordinary people, these policy changes are not just abstract debates. They are reshaping daily life, affecting everything from the cost of groceries to job security and family budgets. The stakes are high, and the future of cross-border commerce hangs in the balance, with the potential to redefine the economic landscape for years to come. The character of these border communities, built on decades of mutual reliance and cooperation, is now at risk of being fundamentally changed as new challenges test the bonds that have long united them. Canada's response to US tariffs has been both official and grassroots, reflecting a blend of government action and public sentiment. The nation's leaders have spoken out strongly, but ordinary Canadians are also making their voices heard in unique ways. Many Canadians are boycotting travel to the US, hitting border towns that depend on tourism. Hotels, restaurants, and small businesses in these American communities are feeling the pinch as Canadian visitors stay away, sending a clear economic message. Yet some Canadians continue cross-border visits to reinforce personal ties, showing that friendships can transcend politics. Family reunions, business partnerships, and lifelong friendships persist, reminding both sides that the border is more than just a line on a map. Officially, Canada has prepared retaliatory tariffs and is considering targeted measures, like tolls on American commercial vehicles traveling through British Columbia to Alaska. These steps are designed to apply pressure without escalating the conflict beyond control. These moves signal Canada's willingness to defend its interests while trying to preserve people-to-people connections. Diplomats on both sides are working overtime to keep communication channels open, even as tensions rise. The federal and provincial governments are leveraging economic and geographic pressure, but the emphasis remains on maintaining goodwill. Behind closed doors, officials are weighing every option, mindful of the long-term relationship at stake. This dual approach, firm on policy, soft on personal ties, reflects a nation determined to protect its interests without severing its closest alliance. Canadians are showing that it's possible to stand up for themselves while still valuing their neighbors. The threat of a tit-for-tat trade war is real, but so is the hope that local bonds can outlast political disputes. Everyday acts of kindness and cooperation continue, even as uncertainty looms. Canada's strategy is calculated: apply pressure where it counts, but keep the door open for reconciliation. The message is clear: Canada will not back down, but it also won't close itself off from dialogue. The outcome will shape not just trade, but the very nature of the US-Canada relationship. The stakes are high, and every decision now could echo for years to come. The world is watching how these two allies navigate this unprecedented strain, looking for lessons in resilience, diplomacy, and the enduring power of cross-border ties. Nowhere are the effects of this conflict felt more than in border towns like Skagway, Alaska, and Point Roberts, Washington. These communities depend on Canadian shoppers, tourists, and workers to sustain their economies. A drop in Canadian visitors has triggered economic slowdowns, with local businesses and officials voicing concern about their future. Decades of easy cross-border movement are giving way to anxiety, higher costs, and disrupted routines. Local events that once bridged communities now face new challenges. Though personal bonds remain strong, economic data shows sharp declines in sales and tourism, underscoring the reliance on open borders. For these towns, the border is more than a line, it's their lifeblood. The prospect of a hardened border threatens not just commerce, but the very identity of these communities. Political rhetoric has fueled the crisis, with President Trump's tariff threats and provocative statements straining relations. In Canada, such language is seen as hostile, deepening public resentment and strengthening resolve for retaliation. The Canadian government has detailed plans for counter-tariffs on a wide range of US goods, risking a full-blown trade war. British Columbia's proposal to toll US commercial traffic to Alaska is a targeted move, leveraging geography as economic pressure. This cycle of threats and countermeasures marks a sharp departure from the usual quiet diplomacy. The public nature of the dispute erodes trust and complicates negotiations. Industries built on stable cross-border supply chains now face uncertainty and higher costs. The rhetoric isn't just noise, it's reshaping the economic and social landscape. As both sides dig in, a swift resolution seems increasingly out of reach. Key sectors, automotive, fishing, and brewing, are especially vulnerable to the disruption. The auto industry's cross-border supply chains mean tariffs raise costs, threaten jobs, and drive up prices for consumers. American craft breweries rely on Canadian barley. New tariffs squeeze margins and could raise beer prices. Fishing industries in Alaska and New England, long intertwined with Canadian partners, now face uncertainty and potential job losses. Businesses built on NAFTA's promise of open borders must now navigate costly alternatives and operational risks. Even small and medium-sized enterprises, less able to absorb shocks, are at risk. Logistics and transportation slowdowns, more inspections, paperwork, or tolls add delays and costs. The just-in-time delivery model is threatened, creating choke points across the continent. The entire North American supply chain is under strain, with ripple effects for workers and consumers alike. Beyond economics, the dispute is fracturing the social fabric of border communities. Long-standing friendships and family ties are strained by anxiety, rising costs, and a sense of division. For places like Point Roberts, where daily life depends on crossing into Canada, new barriers mean real hardship. Residents face higher prices, logistical headaches, and emotional stress as routines are upended. Many feel caught in a conflict they didn't create, watching cherished cross-border traditions erode. The emotional toll is profound. Frustration, sadness, and helplessness are common. Canceled visits and strained friendships are the most personal casualties of this standoff. The border, once a soft line, risks becoming a hard barrier, replacing cooperation with suspicion. The unraveling of these connections may be the most lasting damage of all. Despite political tensions, local communities are fighting to preserve cross-border bonds. Events like the Buckwheat International Ski Classic have become symbols of enduring friendship, with Canadians attending to support their American neighbors. Participants distinguish between government policies and personal relationships, choosing people over politics. Shared traditions and mutual aid remain strong, even as national disputes rage. These acts of solidarity show that decades of goodwill can withstand political storms. The resilience of these communities offers hope that the core alliance will survive. Local unity sends a powerful message. The bonds of community can outlast the barriers of politics. As of late 2025, the future of the US-Canada relationship is uncertain. Persistent tariffs and political tensions make it hard for businesses and families to plan ahead. Even if policies change, the mistrust and disruption may linger for years. The risk is not just economic. Regional identities and cross-border cooperation are at stake. The legacy of open borders and shared prosperity is under threat. The choices made now by leaders and citizens will determine whether this partnership endures or fractures. The resilience of community bonds offers hope, but the path forward remains unwritten. Will the US and Canada weather this storm, or is this the start of a permanent divide?